Hey third graders, as promised, I have the boiling colored water and the boiling corn syrup. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This one is the corn syrup. As you can see, we do have a little bit of steam coming off, but more interesting is what's happening inside the pot. You see all those little bubbles? As they pop, I want you to think about what those bubbles are. Are those gas? Are they liquid? Are they a little bit of both? I also want to note that the corn syrup has gotten a lot less thick. See how much more easily it moves around than it did when we had it in our plastic containers at school. These both have been boiling for about 5 minutes on high. So they both had about the same temperature for boiling. So, and what I found interesting is, as I predicted that we wouldn't have that visible steam coming off the corn syrup, but we do. And so I think that that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to take this because corn syrup can be a little bit sticky. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to hold a piece of paper right over the top of the steam. And I'm going to try to capture some of that steam, and I'm going to see what it does to the paper when the steam dries on the paper. So when it's going to condense onto the paper into a liquid, which we'll go over tomorrow, and I'm going to see what it does when it turns back into a solid and dries on the paper. So I have a little bit of liquid on the paper. I'm going to set that to the side. Here's the really interesting thing. Some of us predicted that the steam out of the green colored water, we predicted that the steam would be green. And the visible steam right now is just that white cloud that we see in a traditional non-colored pot of boiling water. But I'm going to do kind of the same thing, and I'm going to hold a piece of paper over here for a little bit, and I'm going to try to capture some of that steam, and I'm actually going to set it right on top for a little bit to try to capture some of that steam and let that steam really condense onto the paper. And what that's going to tell me is when that dries, it's going to tell me, we'll look at this a little bit more, if the steam was actually green or if it just appeared white, or if it appeared how it appeared. So it still looks white, or clear rather, because that's the color of water, but we're going to see what happens when that dries to see, was that steam, was the gas, was it clear or the white, or was it green? So that's the boiling water, and this is the boiling corn syrup. And as you can see, this is even actually dropped, evaporated, since I even started this video. This pot, when I first started boiling the corn syrup, the pot was about halfway full. And I don't know if you can see, it's almost completely empty. And the pot of colored water was almost full to the top. So we can really see that evaporation and that drop in liquid volume. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these off. We'll wait for that paper to dry and we will explore that in class. In the meantime, I also have some frozen samples here. So I'm pulling them out of my freezer right now. These have been in the freezer for about 6 hours. And let's see. So this is the corn syrup, and what I found interesting is that the corn syrup is still kind of this liquid. If I touch it, let's see if you can get this. If I touch it, it's still kind of, I can still kind of pick it up and rub it between my fingers. So it's not as solid as I thought it would be, and I'm going to leave it in the freezer overnight. And we can talk about it tomorrow to see if it ever solidifies to a complete solid as in the way we think of rocks, or if it's going to be as solid as in the way we think of sponge, a softer solid. So here is the frozen colored water. Here's what's interesting. A lot of you had predicted that when we boiled the water that the color and the water would separate. And some said that no, it would just stay, it's a mixture and it's fully mixed. But notice what happened to the ice cube. And again, these were in my freezer for a couple hours, and it did this to both of them. Look at the separation there, how on the top of the ice cube it is almost clear, but at the base of the ice cube it's hardly translucent at all. So that was pretty interesting, but as predicted, it is solid ice. So that is it from the Star home, and we will go over this some more in class. Thanks, guys.